A report by an expert panel of scientists says the oceans are in a worse state than previously suspected, with marine species facing an unprecedented threat of extinction. The panel, convened by the International Programme on the State of the Ocean, says overfishing, pollution and climate change are acting together in ways that have not previously been recognised. The changes include melting of Arctic sea ice and the Greenland and Antarctic ice sheets, sea level rise and release of methane trapped in the seabed. The combination of stresses is creating conditions that are associated with every previous major extinction of species in Earth's history. The speed and rate of degeneration in the oceans is far faster than anyone had predicted. Overfishing has reduced some commercial fish stocks and other species caught up in fishing nets by more than 90%. The report concludes that a new mass extinction event is inevitable if the current trajectory of damage continues. Well, to discuss the findings of the International Programme on the State of the Oceans, we're joined by Professor Peter Ralph from the University of Technology, Sydney. Over the past 15 years, he's conducted extensive research on ocean marine life, with a specific focus on coral reef ecosystems. Peter Ralph, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, as we've heard, this panellist said ocean life is at high risk of entering a phase of extinction of marine species unprecedented in human history. It's alarming stuff.
It is, and the information's been coming together steadily for many years now, but I think this report has brought it all together into a tight focus. We have a number of major problems facing the oceans.
Okay, and those problems, the panel is saying, caused by, among others, overfishing, climate change and pollution.
Yep, and the synergistic effects of these. I think this is one of the big report findings, is that the effect of overfishing and elevated temperature, runoff from cane farms and the impact on the reef. So it's bringing together this information, not just seeing it as individual stressors of the ocean.
So more broadly, the effect on the ocean, I gather, is acidification, lack of oxygen in the water, and also rising temperatures.
Yep.
Let's turn to your field of expertise, coral reef systems, for instance, the Barrier Reef.
Yep.
What would the effect on the reef be?
The effect we've been seeing since the '98 bleaching event with elevated seawater temperatures, we're seeing regular bleaching events. The corals are bleaching, some of them recover, but not all of them recover. We're also now seeing the effect of herbicides, runoff from agricultural farming on the catchment of the Great Barrier Reef. So the effect of herbicides plus elevated temperature, increased storm activity, all of these together are damaging the reef at a much faster rate than we expected. And we need to manage it from the three perspectives, not just individual processes.
So why have these changes been accelerated, particularly in the last 2 years?
I think it's more the recognition of it. For example, the East Australian Current, we're looking at the rates of temperature change down the east coast of Australia. We haven't had the data collection for long enough to actually see these processes, but we're now starting to see these changes. Antarctic temperatures of the ocean water, we're starting to see these processes. So they're very small changes, but it takes a long time for us to collect the data to actually see these subtle differences.
The panel talks of a mass extinction event. Are they being overly alarmist there?
We've had 5 extinctions where there's talk, they're calling it the Anthropocene extinction, so the human-induced extinction. We're seeing rates of extinction higher than we've seen in the past. Whether or not it becomes a mass extinction, I hope we can avert that.
How do you define a mass extinction? Are we talking about most species in the ocean?
Well, in past mass extinctions, they were 70 to 90% of marine species were wiped off the fossil record.
And if we go on current trends, then how long is that likely to take?
I don't think people have got the time periods. We need to avoid the rate of changes that we're having over the next 100 years. When we will have a mass extinction, I think that's still of great debate. But
So, sorry, but if you look at a mass extinction in the ocean then,
Yep.
most species die,
Yep.
can you then say the ocean dies, What's the knock-on effect?
Well, the knock-on effect to humans' ecosystem services is phenomenal. We have no fisheries. We have no sink to absorb 60% of our CO2 that we put up. As soon as the ocean becomes a non-living chemical soup, human existence ends. So we are highly dependent on a functional, healthy ocean system, and we're starting to see subtle changes in that would lead towards conditions where the ecosystem services won't be there anymore.
Just finally, do you think people will be listening? Because, of course, we have heard these stories before. This panel is obviously an eminent sort of number of scientists.
Oh, yeah.
How do you overcome that inertia that the public is feeling at the moment as far as climate change alarm bells?
But I think this report is different. This report is not talking about an individual acidification, elevated temperature, sea level rise. It's talking about the integrated response, and I think that's an area that we need to start looking at more deeply and understanding how we predict a single change is too short-term. These combined effects, which this report's talking about, shows a much graver picture than we've considered before. That's the difference.
All right, on that rather depressing note, Professor Peter Ralph, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.